The Supreme Court is the final court of judgment. There is no recourse beyond that. In the American Supreme Court, or in the Canadian or the Australian Supreme Court, people sit as a bench, as an entire bank. The entire Supreme Court sits together. So there is, what you could say, some consistency between one decision and another, and it is never the luck of the draw. All 9 judges sit, all 7 judges sit, whatever. In India, we have 30 judges on our Supreme Court. There is no way that you can have all the judges sitting at the same time. On matters of great constitutional importance, you have to have, according to the Constitution, a bench of 5 judges, but in this case, they didn't have it. It was a bench of 2 judges. They've decided, and there is no recourse beyond that, except for something used extremely exceptionally, and that is this. You can have what is known as a review petition, and then as a last resort, you can have what is known as a curative petition. These are extremely long shots. A review petition is when you go to the same bench that decided the matter and say, hey, look guys, you were wrong. Please change your mind. Now, this is very rare. The 2 judges, one of whom retired. He retired on the very...
This is what's going to happen on the 28th, right?
That's what's going to happen on the 28th. The review petition was put forward by the government of India, which was so appalled by the judgment, basically, because part of what the judges had done was misinterpret the government's own stance. They had said, for example, that the Attorney General was a friend of the court, just advising them, whereas actually he was there as the representative of the government. And several other problems like that. And then all the other petitioners came along as well and said, look, we want you to review it. So on the 28th, that's 2 days from now, one judge who hadn't retired, Mukhopadhyay, and the other judge who had retired, Singhvi, and therefore cannot sit. Mukhopadhyay will be joined by another judge, I can't remember his name, but the 2 of them will sit together in the afternoon without any of the lawyers, simply reading the review petitions and deciding what to do. So the happiness, the peace of mind of 200 million Indians, let's say 60 million of people who are going to be criminalized and their families, are going to be decided in a matter of half an hour by these 2 judges. That is the review petition. That is all it is. That is what is going to happen on the 28th. If our freedoms, our fundamental freedoms of privacy, dignity, the right to live, the right to love, the right to not be discriminated against, the right to equality, are going to be decided by these 2 judges, so basically the luck of the draw. It's not the whole 30, it's not even 5, it's the luck of the draw. You get 2 judges who think a certain way, and that is what's going to happen to you. That is one. After that, as an extremely long shot, you can ask for a curative petition. I can't think of any example, except maybe in the Bhopal case, where there was any chance of success. 5 judges sit together, and that it'll be the Chief Justice, the 2 senior most judges, and again the 2 judges who decided. And really, this is not going to happen. It's a terribly, terribly long shot. So we don't know what's going to happen, basically. The fact is that I and many people like me are criminals, and also unapprehended felons, many heterosexual people as well. But this law is going to be used. It's going to be used for blackmail, extortion, and so on, and the judges know it. And the question is, are they going to change their minds? So 2 days from now, when I have my second session, which will I hope only be about literature, may be partly about this wretched business.
Okay, now since you've mentioned literature, you know, that's one way you could, because most of the people have come here, have read you, and you know, they're the admirers of your writing.
Yeah.
So do you think that is also a forum or a platform from which you can, you know, you can fight this cause?
Yes.
Will we find a character who's similarly, you know, protesting against these issues in your long-awaited sequel? Long-awaited sequel.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the fact is, I don't think that novels should necessarily be a kind of vehicle for the views and thoughts of the novelist, because then you're preaching to the converted and you're putting off people who don't believe what you don't take your point of view. If some of the characters are involved one way or another, Say, for example, Mahesh Kapoor was involved with land reform, or someone might be involved with women's rights. So, if your characters are enthusiastic about a particular cause, then it's reasonable and plausible to put it in. But otherwise, I could write an essay about it, I could write a tract about it, I could write a separate book about it, but I don't think it has a place in a novel somehow. That's my own personal view as a writer.
Suppose it just kind of jostles its way into the plot.
Well, I remember one case where something kind of jostled its way into the plot. I was in England at the time, and I was with my younger brother Shantam, who was at that time very involved with anti-nuclear protesting. And he said, look Bhaiya, I think you really should have an anti-nuclear subtext in your novel. I was writing The Golden Gate at the time. And Shantam, in fact, was arrested for that. He willfully and maliciously obstructed the Queen's highway by parking himself in a kind of meditative posture in front of Upper Hayford in Oxfordshire, where there was a kind of American nuclear base. And he argued his own case in court at the Banbury Magistrates, and my mother, who's, by the way, a judge, and I think I've mentioned that before, she had to sit and see her son in the dock, being found guilty of the reprehensible crime I just described. And he was fined, I think, £25 or £30, and he could have paid it into the court, but he didn't. He said it's unjust and I will not pay it and I'll go to prison instead if it's necessary. And he told us, who wanted to pay it, if you ever pay that amount into court, I'll never speak to you again. So obviously all of us, do want to speak to Shantam. And so we didn't put the £25 into the court. And a year and a half later, when he was, I think, vice president of the Students' Union somewhere in Norwich, a couple of policemen bicycled up to him and said, Mr. Seth, we've come to take you to prison. And so he said, well, I've got a friend visiting on the weekend. Could you come back on Monday? You've waited long enough. And so he said, all right, we'll do that. So they cycled away. And then when they came back, then Shantam's groupies threw flowers on the policeman, and he went away to jail for a week, and that was that. And in fact, from jail he wrote us the only legible letter he's ever written, because his writing is a scrawl. But there, I think that he had only 2 letters that he was allowed to write that week, and so anyway. He said to me, Bhaiya, look, you're staying with me in Norwich. I think you really have to write about it. I said, Shantam, I can't write about that. My novel, none of the characters are interested. But then, strangely enough, when I went back to California, where I was in Stanford, one of my characters, a priest, got involved in the anti-nuclear movement in California. Sorry. And several other characters did as well. So, Malavika, you might have started something off here this evening. For all I know, there may be a character who is trying to find himself and is protesting about this or, excuse me, other matters. So all I'll say is watch this space.
We've been watching for some time.
I know. There's another thing. I didn't obviously want to deal with this issue. Now I'm in the middle of writing. And I was at a very good patch of writing as it happened, but you can't decide, when life and law and love throw a googly in the works.
So while you sip water, yes.
Make your next question long.
Well, I was going to ask that what happens next? Suppose the review petition doesn't go the way, good sense should take it. What happens? I mean, where do you see this entire issue headed?
Well, it was not the province of Parliament, but to my surprise, one of the major parties, the Congress Party, came out very forcefully and said this is absolutely wrong what's happening, and we would like to change the law since the judges aren't doing it. But they can't for 2 reasons. One is the BJP is not supporting them, and the other is that the Socialist Party has decided, probably because of a vote bank calculation, not to support them. So I don't think they have the numbers in Parliament and they won't be able to do it. So that route seems to be closed off. The curative petition seems to be an extremely long shot. So the answer is, I really don't know where it's going to go. I am not happy to be a criminal in my own country, But I certainly plan to continue to be a criminal in my own country, if it should come to that.
I think you wish to end this session with a reading, so I'll take questions first and then we'll go back to that. So are there any questions?
Actually, can we have the audience in some more light? Is that the most light we can have on the audience? I can't see anyone.
I'll
Okay.
navigate with my big eyes. Yes.
Actually, she's not...
There's a lady here, but where are the mics? Yes. There's a mic
There
somewhere.
a few mics around.
Hello.
mustn't
There are.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
she's there. Yes.
Hi there.
Apparently, this might not come into what we are discussing tonight here.
Sure.
But then, yes, what we are going through is, of course, the darkness. So, sir, this is my request to you. Please recite Night Watch to us.
Night Watch.
Yes, sir.
Is that a poem I wrote?
Yes.
Oh dear, oh dear. This is the problem with Republic Day. You're not allowed to drink anything. And so my memory...
You're never allowed to drink at the Victoria Memorial.
Is that so?
Yes.
Now, you know, I used to come to Toria Moria, as we called it in my childhood. Please, Papa, take me to Toria Moria for jhalmuri and bonbons. But I never, I mean, perhaps I should have asked him, please take me for a little ampoule or capsule of the reviving stuff. Now, Night Watch, could you just recite the first line of it? Or one, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't.
We'll wait for you to Google it and
No, no.
take the next question.
I have the book with me.
Do you? Could you pass it over?
Yeah.
Thanks. Night Watch. Oh yeah, you're quite right. Yeah. Awake for hours and staring at the ceiling through the unsettled stillness of the night, he grows possessed of the obsessive feeling that dawn has come and gone and brought no light.
Okay, there was
Actually,
a lady.
maybe
Sorry.
now I've found this book, so perhaps what I should read partly, all usually tonight. Do we have, does anyone in the audience have The Humble Administrator's Garden? No? No? Okay, the trouble is, yes? No, don't worry. Okay, fine.
We'll
Sorry.
bring that on the 28th.
Okay. No, because there's a poem that's germane to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some hands here. Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Where are the hands? Sure.
Sir, ever since I read your book, I wanted to ask this question to you.
Yes.
What actually inspired you to end the book A Suitable...
Wait. Stop. Look, I'm going to stop you there because many people here have not read A Suitable Boy, and to give the ending away would not be fair. It really wouldn't. After all, if you read 1,500 pages, you've got to get some sort of reward. Now, I might be being unfair on you. If you could phrase your question in such a way that you don't give the ending away. Yes.
I'm going to do that, absolutely.
Sure.
Why did it end the way it did?
Look, all I can say is, I didn't do it, ma'am. It was Lata who decided whom she wanted to marry.
Sir, but Beetle and Thomas Hardy?
I'm sorry?
Sir, Chewing Pan and Thomas Hardy?
Look, I think you said too much already. But do remember, I mean, I'm not abnegating my responsibility entirely as a writer. Obviously, I am the various characters, or the various characters are me. Both Lata and Cuddles the dog, and Saeeda Bai Firozawadi the wife, and Ustad Majid Khan Sahab, and Ellen Agarwal, and the whole lot. But the fact is, there is also a logic, an emotional logic, and a societal logic of the way that things worked for her. And I would also ask you to not just think of what happened at that time, but what might happen from then on. I'm writing this jump sequel set in the present. Lata, I left her at 20 there. Now she's 80 years old, looking back on a life and also looking somewhat forwards to her life, because people don't stop looking forwards at the age of 80. And part of your final judgment, if one can use that in this particular context, part of your final judgment, or you might even have a review petition on your judgment, should be based upon not just the wedding, but the marriage. Not just the event, but the life complexly and either well or badly lived. I'll tell you what, I can only see people here, but I would like to be a little geographically democratic, and there must be some people at the very back who want to ask a few questions. So maybe if one mic...
There's one hand right there.
All right.
Right at the end. Okay, they're going this way.
Right. But I will take questions from the front as well, of course. Look, whoever gets a mic starts speaking, because otherwise, yes.
Hello. Sir, I want to know about that on the day 11/12/13, when the verdict was given, the leading news channels, I'm quoting them, said gay sex illegal. As it is known of two or fewer only, that the IPC 377 doesn't has to deal only with homosexuals. So what should be done, according to you, to sensitize the media, as it fills some misconceptions to all the people, as it's only about gay sex only?
Well, you're quite right at one level, but I don't think you're entirely right on another aspect. See, it is certainly the case that anything other than, and now I'll just get technical, penile vaginal sex, anything other than that has been declared unnatural, recriminalized, and so on, yeah? And of course, that could certainly be between a man and a woman as well. So you're quite right on that point. That again is now considered against the order of nature. The one knows perfectly well that in almost every species in the animal world, there is in fact a gamut of sexuality, from homosexuality through bisexuality, through heterosexuality, and actually even asexuality. So, so you're quite right on that point. And maybe the press got it slightly wrong in that regard. But the fact of the matter is that the law has been used predominantly indiscriminately or against gay men. Basically, that's what it's been used of the many cases that have been brought up, and the many cases that have not been reported because they were at the district level and not appealed to high courts, and so on. And even the cases are just the tip of the iceberg of oppression. Do in effect concentrate on gay sex. So the press tends to be not necessarily be enormously well informed about everything, and they can't, by the very nature of breaking news, be expected to be fully informed about everything. But on this one, I would say that they haven't got it badly wrong. And I certainly was surprised by the extent of the critiquing of the judgment. Normally, people don't critique Supreme Court judgments unless they're so obviously, unbelievably, let's say, bad. There's absolutely no way of getting around this particular judgment. So the press was really, many academic critics, mainly in India, but even one or two from abroad, but this issue is going to be decided in India. Many lawyers, even one or two ex-judges, the Attorney General, who's a very scrupulous and circumspect person, spoke out about the misinterpretation of his role in the affair. So I was actually very impressed by that. As far as my own business of having spoken out, I was fully prepared, and I am quite sensitive to criticism, even though I try not to be. I was fully prepared for very I'd winched myself up for a lot of criticism, and I was quite surprised to find that people, even of my parents' generation, came up to me and sometimes mentioning, a beloved niece or an uncle or a brother or a teacher, said to me, we're really glad you did that. And I just wish that other people knew that they have very little to lose, actually. Or what do they have to lose? Some discomfiture, some... I mean, this simply doesn't bear thinking about in terms of the proportion of what is being done to other people. This is trivial, frankly. So I think on the whole, I'm not sure that, although, I've often spoken out about the press's general tendency to fly off the handle on various matters, on the whole, I think, not a bad job. I don't know what you think. Do you want to come back on that or not really? Okay, fine.
If you could just turn back, you'd mentioned that you had braced yourself for criticism, but some criticism came from unlikely quarters who said you're the poster boy and you're diluting the main case, which is, as you said, in kasbahs and smaller villages. So were you a little troubled by that?
I did kind of slightly realize that. I mean, if you know me, Malavika, that the last thing I want to be is the poster boy for anything. And that rather shocking picture of me on the cover of India Today, it wasn't a posed picture. What happened was that the previous night I had been working late on a poem with the help of some inspiration from a bottle, and at about 3 or 4 in the morning I went off to sleep, and at 9 o'clock in the morning someone pressed the bell insistently, and I had incorporated 2